Get ready to speak geek.
People who get it, get it.
This is the Geek Speak Show. Geek is spoken here.
They're listening. You're consuming. You're watching with your ears. Oh, you just listen.
This is the Geek Speak Show. Featuring Henry San Miguel, Rachel Rosselli, and Joel Chapitana. And interviews with the movers and shakers in geek culture.
Hi, I'm Chris Hardwick. Hey, Todd McFarlane.
I'm Ralph Bakshi.
Hi, this is Tara Platt.
And this is Yuri Lowenthal.
I'm Zach Whedon.
Let's be geek with Henry, Rachel, and Joe. Well, this week it is just going to be Henry solo, but they haven't gone anywhere. Joel and Rachel are still here. You can follow them if you want on the old Twitter. Rachel is at Jedi Knight Rach, Joel at Joel Japitana. You want to follow me? Well, a couple of ways. One, at a Geek Speak Show. One, that's the number one. Or stay right there. Follow me along as we continue to talk. A little bit of Halloween. Got a couple of things that I'm gonna reveal to you. If you're one of those who, with 3 weeks to go until Halloween, are still sitting there wondering, what am I gonna do for Halloween besides dressing up, of course, because you dress up, right? Well, I got a couple of special offers. One of them is up on the, actually they're both now up on the website, thanks to our producer Angel. So they're on there for you. I'll give you all the details in just a few minutes. We'll also talk a Halloween-ish, Halloween-y movie, I guess. Well, it's a scary movie, put it that way. That's coming out this Friday. Talk to an old friend. She's been here before. She's going to come back again. You all know her as Hit Girl. Yeah, she'll be coming on. But before we do that, let's talk like always, TV talk. As we record this, it's Tuesday, so I haven't seen everything for this week. Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s tonight, 8 p.m. Haven't seen that episode yet. But let me go back to last week a little bit. If you remember, I mentioned to Joel and Rachel that on the CW on Wednesday, The Tomorrow People was going to make its debut. It did. I watched it. Pretty good, actually. I mentioned also last week that it's a remake of a UK version of a show called The Tomorrow People. This is the Americanized version on the CW. It's pretty good, and I described it as a combination, as a mix between X-Men and Chronicle. Having watched it, it's actually more like Jumper. Remember that movie with Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen? That movie didn't do too much in the box office. It was a good concept, but just not, the execution wasn't that good is all. But you get kind of the same effect here. There's teleportation, telekinesis, and some other powers that haven't fully been explored yet. Though all you losties, Jacob is in this. Jacob, you forgot who Jacob is already. Mark Pellegrino is in. I was going to say he plays the villain, but not really sure. I will say this. There is, I guess, spoiler alert at the end. There is a little twist that I wasn't expecting. I didn't see that coming at all with one of the, I guess, who is going to be the major character. It's a little twist at the end that I wasn't expecting, so pretty good. Again, every Wednesday at 9 p.m., the CW, The Tomorrow People, pretty good. So, did watch Sleepy Hollow. Still just as good. It's a little corny, but like I said before, the corniness actually works for this show, especially from the Ichabod Crane character. It's going to go on break for 3 weeks. I think to make room for Almost Human, JJ and JH Wyman's new show. We'll talk about that when that comes out. But I did see the teaser. Everybody, I know you all got excited because I think we see coming to Sleepy Hollow a certain favorite mad scientist of ours, Walter Bishop. John Noble is going to be coming to Sleepy Hollow. We saw him in the teaser, so I can't wait for that. 3 weeks away. I don't know when exactly he's going to come back, who he's playing, what he's playing, but John Noble is coming to Sleepy Hollow. And yes, Sleepy Hollow just got that much better. What else? Nothing else happening. I could talk about football, but you guys don't really care too much about football. Nothing else happened Sunday night that I remember, did it? Oh yeah, it's back. AMC's The Walking Dead Season 4 kicked off this Sunday on AMC. Episode was called 30 Days Without an Accident, and it looks that way. It looks like they're settled in, the people from Woodbury, and I think they're taking on a few new people from, just walked into the prison, I guess. And they built a community that they're doing. They have gardens. They're naming the animals, but they're not supposed to name the walkers, even though the kids are. So everything is pretty okay. But this is The Walking Dead. This is that show that decides to kill fan favorites sometimes. Although Daryl's still around. So you know it can't bode over well. At the very end, I won't spoil too much, but at the very end, a new, not enemy, but a new threat is revealed. It looks like, I'll put it like this. It looks like you're not going to turn just from a bite anymore. I'll leave it at that. I don't know what's going to happen. Not Harry Potter, had that last scene in the shower, and then he comes as Walker Harry Potter. What was his name? Patrick was his name. Not Harry Potter. It was Patrick was his name. So poor kid. So we'll see what happens. Our other buddy, Chris Hardwick, Talking Dead also returned after. He had the new showrunner on. I can't forget his name right off the top of my head right now. But the showrunner, he mentioned that from season 2 on, it's just gonna get worse for the survivors. So prepare yourself for that. But it's back. AMC's The Walking Dead is back finally, just in time for Halloween. This Friday, in a couple of Fridays on the 25th, NBC Grimm returns. So I may have somebody on from Grimm to talk about that before it premieres. So that's what's happening on TV. Tonight, as I record this again, it's Tuesday. PBS has declared this Superheroes Night. What does that mean? That means a couple of things. Well, really, besides just PBS, it is kind of Superheroes Night because over on Sci-Fi, you've got Fangasm, and then over on ABC, of course, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., episode number, 4 now? Pretty good. So last week was really good. We'll see what happens this time around. And on PBS, starting at 8 o'clock, 2 hours full of superheroes. Documentary called Superheroes, A Never-Ending Battle. And so on to talk about it is the directors Michael Kantor and Laurence Maslon. Superheroes, A Never-Ending Battle documentary airs Tuesday, tonight, October 15th at 8 p.m. on PBS. Check your list and see what channel PBS is on your provider. It's also available on Blu-ray and DVD, also out now. But wait, there's more. There's also a companion book that goes with it. Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture. That's been out in bookstores for a couple of weeks now. It's also available online. On to talk about the documentary first is Michael and Laurence. Welcome, guys, to the Geek Speak Show.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So when I got the press release for this a couple of weeks ago, I had 2 reactions. The first one was, yes, a documentary on comic books on PBS. The second was, what made you think it's time that we finally had a documentary about comic book culture?
Well, it's been interesting. Larry and I have worked on documentaries about the Broadway musical and American comedy, and somehow the comic book creators and the people who created this industry have never really gotten the respect that they deserve until very recently. And it was the National Endowment of the Arts and the National Endowment of Humanities that gave us grants that enabled us to start telling the history. And we tell the history not just of the characters, but of the creators, and we try and contextualize that in terms of the American history that prompted those different things to happen.
Lauren, same thing for you?
A lot of people are, they're looking at these box office movies. They're watching, maybe they see a segment about Comic-Con on Entertainment Weekly, and maybe they don't know about the history, and maybe they don't know about the background. So maybe they're saying, gee, I always thought this was the kind of stuff that your mom tossed out when you were in 6th grade. Why is it such a big deal? And I think this is a way of answering why it's such a big part of American popular culture. Just
brought back some bad memories that actually happened to me. My mom tossed out my comic books.
As we like to say, after this series, there is no mother who will ever again dare to throw away their kids' comic books.
we hope so. So when you guys said yes, let's do it, and you got the green light for everything, who did you know that had to be included in this documentary?
Well, we started with Stan the Man himself, Stan Lee, who was our first interview, talks about how he was known as Stanley Martin Lieber, and when he went into comic books, 70-odd years ago, he changed his name because he wanted to protect his name when he'd write something significant, a great American novel. And here he is now having co-created every character from Spider-Man and Fantastic Four to Hulk and Thor and so on. It's really a remarkable legacy, and he's still going strong. So he was the one we started with. We also were fortunate to interview folks like Joe Simon, who co-created Captain America with Jack Kirby, Jerry Robinson, who worked on the Joker and Robin, the Boy Wonder, for in the Batman world, Carmine Infantino, and Joe Kubert. Those last four great talents died since the time that we interviewed them a few years ago. We worked on the documentary for roughly 5 years.
And for me, one of the guys I think that fans will be really pleased made it on camera is Jim Steranko. And Steranko is not, he's not a big public personality, but boy is he important. And for me, he also wrote, when I was growing up in the 70s, these two amazing books of comics history. So he can also, and does, talk brilliantly about the late 30s, 40s, and 50s, as well as his own amazing work in the 1960s.
Yeah, he definitely is. So we've had a chance to talk to him here on the show. Very, very interesting guy. So when I got the press release, from what I understand, Michael, you know comic books, but not like Laurence. Laurence is one of us. When he knew comic books back then. I think you mentioned in the book that you even wanted to be an artist, right?
Me? Yeah. This is Larry. Yeah. I started, in the 60s watching Batman on TV, and then I sort of got swept up because I was lucky enough to live about 40 minutes from New York City. In the early 70s, there were comic conventions, and I got to meet all these guys, and a friend and I actually customized superhero models, and we made one of Galactus, which we got Stan Lee and Jack Kirby to sign at the same time. So I was, 1975, 76, and I had already met the two twin gods of comicdom. So it's a real treat to be able to share this affection I've always had. I have a 5-year-old son, so I'm passing the torch, the human torch, to him, and also hopefully sharing this with what we hope will be millions of viewers tonight on PBS.
Yeah, I think you're going to get millions of viewers. Now Laurence, you knew it, Michael. For both of you guys, what kind of research went into the documentary before you started filming interviews or anything?
Well, certainly, the good thing about comic book history, it's not infinite. It does go back to the 30s with the comic strips and the pulps and then the comic book heroes themselves. So I just sort of went back and read everything, those are the texts. There's some very good comic book histories, but basically you start with the comic books and you find the stories that are exciting and the characters you find are exciting, and then you reach out to get as many creators as possible. And I know Michael can talk about that, but Michael's always been a big proponent of going to the source and starting with the people who are still alive, who were there when it happens. That's always more interesting than a guy who can tell you what happened, right? So take it away, Michael.
Yeah, I think in a documentary, you're really looking to hear from the creators themselves. The narration helps contextualize the time period and set up certain stories, but you really don't want a through-narrated piece. And so I think in terms of research, we started with a panel of consultants who advised us in terms of themes that the National Endowment of Humanities stress is important in terms of their thinking. And we took their ideas and went out, and then we took those ideas and asked Jim Steranko and Stan Lee and more recently folks like Jeff Johns and Jim Lee and Joe Quesada these big questions. What do superheroes mean to, why are they uniquely American? What do they mean to our country? And when did you start in the industry? And what do you consider the key moments in the evolution of superheroes? Not just necessarily in the comic books, but on radio and television and in the movies and in games. We interviewed Paul Dini, among others. So we have a wide range of really well-informed experts who share little bits of this huge story. And our job is to just make sure that it's interesting to both fanboys and people like my parents who'd actually never heard of the Avengers movie, the third largest film in history. Yeah. So hopefully it works on all those different levels.
And you mentioned narrator and narration a minute ago. It is narrated by Liev Schreiber, who is known as Sabretooth from the X-Men movie a few years ago. How did you settle on Liev, the narrator for the documentary?
Well, it's really important to me to get a narrator host who was in some way tied to a superhero or a supervillain. And Liev is recognized as one of the greatest narrators of our time, and the fact that he'd also played Sabretooth made him the perfect choice. And I think he does a great job in helping to set things up for these comic book and other superhero titans, whether it's Linda Carter or Adam West talking about superheroes on television, or Zack Snyder talking about his film work. We explore not just the comic book iterations of superheroes, but all the different iterations.
Yeah, we're talking to Laurence Maslon and Michael Kantor. Their documentary, Superheroes, A Never-Ending Battle, airs tonight, Tuesday, October 15th at 8 p.m. on PBS. It's also available today on Blu-ray and DVD if you want to get it, and I know you guys will in this audience. There's also a book that goes with it, Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture. It's available in bookstores and online. Now, like I said, this audience for the Geek Speak show, they're going to love this. The people who went to see the Avengers and all those movies, that audience is built in. But I think you kind of mentioned it, I think it was Michael. What do you hope the non-comic book fan or somebody who's never picked up a comic book, what do you hope they take away from this documentary?
Well, I like to think of my brother as someone who he works, or until very recently, he worked with Pepperidge Farm Cookies. And he's not a big culture buff and certainly isn't terribly well informed about comic books and superheroes. But I think it's a mix of American history and these amazing stories of guys who kind of put themselves out there. They changed their names. They were working for $5 a page in what some people think of as a really horrible working conditions, and others saw as this was the time of their lives. And they created this body of work, these incredible characters that live on to today. And I think hopefully it'll wet the whistle of people who don't know these stories. Maybe they'll be interested in reaching out to their children or grandchildren or parents or grandparents and sharing the stories together.
Laurence, same thing for you. That's what you expect from people to take away?
Again, people who, it's amazing. We're inside it, we know what where Spider-Man went to high school and where he went to college. But there are plenty of people who have, everybody in America knows who Superman is, guaranteed. Maybe 80% of Americans know who Batman is. 75% know who Spider-Man is. But even people who know those things don't know they're from the Depression, or don't know how long the heroes have been around, or don't know the circumstances in which they've been created, or how a character like Captain America, why he made his debut. He made his debut socking Hitler on the jaw months before President Roosevelt committed us to World War II. And he's been around, and he disappeared, and he came back after Kennedy was assassinated. So there's lots of really interesting historical background stories to people. So I really hope that people will be piqued by that and learn more about the characters that everybody loves.
Yeah, now Laurence, you already, like I said, you already knew and were in love with this whole world of comic books and everything that comes with it. Michael, for you, after doing this documentary, did you get a new respect for the creators and the fans after you finished the documentary?
Oh, Larry coined a great phrase, which is great power, great respectability. And I think you can't help but marvel at folks like Joe Simon and Jerry Robinson and Jim Steranko and Len Wein and Jerry Conway and Mark Waid, all the folks who, J. Michael Straczynski, who gave us just a little bit of their time, but spoke to honor both their peers and their idols, who created an industry that everybody is somehow linked to. Every 5-year-old is familiar with these characters, and every adult, as we know now, is enjoying video games and movies and, buying. Today I'm wearing my Batman socks with little capes on the back. It's just fun. And so I think apart from having the privilege of meeting all these major artists and writers, it's been really great to just dip into the fun world. It's always joyful, and I hope both with my kids and with the people who watch the show that we can keep that joy going.
Yeah, we're almost there, but is the hope with this documentary that it'll allow comic books and the comic book culture to be seen as a truly American art form?
Well, that's just it. I mean, when we worked on the Broadway musical a few years back, everyone said, "Oh, that's glitzy and frilly, and it really doesn't say anything about American culture." But when you look at the history of the music of the 20th century, that was the popular music. And now, when you do the same thing in terms of our American mythology and the characters that each generation looks to somehow express their concerns and their dreams, their aspirations, superheroes are this wonderful barometer of how America was feeling, and whether it was drugs or fears about the atomic age or terrorism or matters in the Great Depression or the 50s. It's all there in these stories. And so we feel strongly that it's time that the creators of those stories and everyone who worked in the industry get the respect that they deserve.
Laurence, go ahead. You were going to add something?
No, that was pretty good. I forget what was the. Oh, but we also talk about American history, and it's not. You can just sort of like be a comic book fan and say, Mom, Dad, Uncle Jack, whatever, these are important. I love them. You should love them. But they really reflect American history in such an interesting way, in the way that Hollywood does, or music does, or any other pop culture form. Maybe more so. I mean, Irving Berlin wrote a song called God Bless America, and it was a song that was, popular, but he didn't create a character called Captain America, who's, been around since 1940 and been on newsstands practically ever since. So, I mean, you literally have the expression of America in characters from comic books. Wonder Woman, The Shield, Captain America, you name it.
All right, so it's Michael Kantor Laurence Maslon. Their documentary, Superheroes, A Never-Ending Battle, airs tonight at 8 p.m. on PBS. It's also available on Blu-ray and DVD. Let's take a little break right now. When we come back, we'll get into the book club. We'll talk about the companion book that goes with it, Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture. You guys can get it, both of them, the DVD, the Blu-ray, and the book on our guest link section. It's all on there for you. It's a little video, a little teaser, a trailer, you can call it, for tonight's documentary. So while we take this quick break, you guys watch that. Then come on back. We'll continue our conversation. Are you ready? Here's a Geek Speak Show Quickie. So opening this Friday is the remake of Carrie, starring a friend of the show, Grace Moretz. She's back on the show now. Talk to me about the Carrie character.
The role of Carrie is a very emotional role. It is probably the most vulnerable I've ever been as an actor. So in some ways it's kind of terrifying for it to come out, but at the same time it'll be kind of an awakening for me because it's something I've never done before. That's
Carrie, the character Carrie, but talk to me about the story that the movie covers.
It's this heightened reality of the mother and daughter struggle that you have as a young adult. And Carrie's also dealing with her religious backgrounds, which her mother, created fake scripture and such to kind of manipulate her, and she kind of loses touch of what is going on around her, and that is when the telekinesis part of her kind of pops out, because when she can't cry enough, she can't scream enough, she can't speak enough, this energy within her pops out in little bursts, and that is another thing that Margaret have been telling her is witchcraft and is sinful, but she comes to realize in her own way that it's not.
Talk about the relationship between her mother Margaret and Carrie.
Margaret is never trying to harm her daughter because she wants to abuse her. Margaret is trying to be the best parent, and she doesn't know how to be because she is so paranoid and so terrified of what might happen to her daughter. She wants to keep her in the house, keep her in the closet, keep her safe, keep her a child, and not allow her to grow up because she knows that what happens by the end of the movie might happen to her.
Now, we all know what happens at the end, no spoilers here, but why do you think Carrie wants to go to the prom?
Going to the prom means you ultimately fit in. And I think what she wants ultimately is to fit in and to be liked and to be, quote, normal. and just to be accepted, because that's really truthfully what everyone wants. And that's all she wants, whether that means going to the prom or, you know, whatever it means, that's what she wants.
Thanks, Chloe. That's our old friend Chloe Grace Moretz, plays Carrie White in the remake of Carrie, opening up this Friday in theaters everywhere. So we'll go back to talking about superheroes in just a moment, but before we do that, let me take a quick moment and tell you about a couple of things that are going on for Halloween. It's October. How can we not talk Halloween? Plus, Rachel and Joel aren't here. They're the ones that kind of get scared about all this stuff. Not producer Angel and myself will probably be there as many times as we can. So can you. Couple of things. One, I told you about this as soon as October began. At the Winchester Mystery House, they're doing something a little bit different this year than what they've done the past couple of years, but the tours are still going on. The Grand Estate, behind the scenes, or the world-famous flashlight tours at the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose. Just for you consumers of the Geek Speak show, that means listeners, there's a special offer just for you. Click on our website where you're listening to the podcast right now. Just scroll down a little bit. You'll see the Winchester Mystery House logo. Click on that. It'll take you to a special page on the Winchester Mystery House website, and you get $3 off either the Grand Estate, the behind the scenes, or the flashlight tours. You can use it one time, but it's $3 off. That's, you know, you can get something to eat there. You can get a souvenir. You can get parking. Although it's pretty free around there. But $3 off only for you, only if you are listening to me tell you this. That means you're a Geek Speak show listener. So it's only for you at the Winchester Mystery House now through October 31st. $3 off the Grand Estate, the behind the scenes, or the flashlight tours. The flashlight tour, I think you all know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. You want to get it early because they do sell out. They really do, especially Halloween week and Halloween day. You better get your tickets right now because it will sell out. So $3 off if you're a consumer listener to the Geek Speak show. The second thing here, closer, right here in San Francisco, downtown San Francisco, starting October 26th. You all know the old U.S. Mint in downtown San Francisco, right? Those of you who live here in the area. It's the building that's there. Money used to be printed there. Now it's just sitting there. It looks kind of haunted sometimes. Starting October 26th. It will be haunted. San Francisco's Haunted House of Horrors coming for 6 nights only, starting October 26th through the 31st at the old U.S. Mint in downtown San Francisco. There's a logo on that on the website also. Use the discount code GeekSpeak for $20 off any ticket. $20 off any ticket to the San Francisco's Haunted House of Horrors. 6 nights, October 26th to 31st. You pick the night, whatever it is, but you get $20 off any ticket if you use the discount code GeekSpeak. So, if you were sitting there wondering, what am I going to do for Halloween? Well, now you know. You can either go to the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, $3 off of that, or starting October 26th, you can go to the San Francisco's Haunted House of Horrors at the old U.S. Mint in downtown San Francisco. Use the discount code GeekSpeak for $20 off. I suggest, just me, go to both of them. You know, producer Angel and myself, we're probably going to go to both of them, and I know you guys love all the scary stuff. So the Winchester Mystery House, $3 off. San Francisco's Haunted House of Horrors, use the discount code GeekSpeak, $20 off any ticket. There you go. Now, those of you who are scared, you can come out from under the table or wherever you are. Let's go back to Mike Kantor and talk more superheroes.
This is the Geek Speak Show Book Club. Sci-fi, fantasy, horror, graphic novels, biographies. You'll hear them here on the Geek Speak Show Book Club.
So for this week, since I don't have Rachel and Joel, I decided I'm going to have 2 books. The first one is continuation of what we were just talking about a few minutes ago. The documentary Superheroes: A Never-Ending Battle airs tonight. Along with it is a companion book called Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture, also co-written by Laurence Maslon and Michael Kantor. They're still on the line with us. So when you guys were doing the documentary, was the idea for the book happening at the same time, or did that come later? Or when did the idea for the book come up?
Well, this is our 3rd documentary series together, and we, from the first one, Broadway, and then Make 'em Laugh, which was about American comedy, we've had a companion book. And boy, if there's ever a subject that cries out for a companion book, it's this one. Not only in terms of interest, but because Michael, as producer, this is Larry Maslon speaking, was so clever at the licensing of the images in the documentary, we were able to put out a book that, frankly, covers all the companies, Marvel and DC, but also Quality, Fawcett, Image, Dark Horse, even Archie. And as I'm sure many of your listeners know, if you get a book, Marvel Chronology year by year or the DC Encyclopedia, they're not talking about the guys across the street.
Right.
They're just talking about their own stable of heroes. So it was really great to be able to do that.
So what does the book have that's not in the documentary?
Well, it certainly has a much wider scope. We can deal with
Dr. Midnight.
Dr. Midnight. We can deal with more characters. We can deal with the pulps, comic strips, stuff that we kind of had to zoom through, and talk about women in comics at greater length, gay superheroes at greater length. And there's a section I love called The Heroes We Have Known and Loved, which enable us to focus on maybe some of the outliers you couldn't do in a documentary who are kind of oddballs like Dr. Midnight or Deathlock the Demolisher or Invincible, Madman, the Amalgam comics of the 1990s. So I think fans will really dig those sections, and I think the average reader will go, really? There was a villain with Superman called the Hypno Hustler in the middle of the disco craze? What was that about? So we get to tell them.
Yeah, and again, the book is called Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture. It's available in bookstores and online. It's been available actually for a couple of weeks now as we record this. But can the same impact be had by reading one without the other, or do you guys suggest that you watch one and then get the book?
I think both the documentary, the 3-hour documentary, and the companion book are definitely standalone products. I think you can enjoy either on their own. I think 3 hours for a documentary film seems like a lot of time, but this history is so rich that inevitably we found there were stories that we can't really include, and as Larry pointed out, interesting characters and moments in American history that just didn't easily fit into our narrative, and that's the perfect place for the book to step up and tell those stories. I think generally the documentary film will reach millions of viewers. Our other films have reached anywhere from 3 to 15 million viewers in their initial airings, and so I think at one level the documentary is a little bit broader. It's a little bit sort of more welcoming to non-comic book believers, and the book is filled with all kinds of great stuff that, as I said, that the documentary doesn't have. But I think both of them are meant to appeal to both hardcore fanboys and casual fans who are interested in this history.
I think also fangirls as well, obviously. But what the book, again, allows you to do is you can see, everybody, again, who's listening to the show knows that famous panel from Green Lantern, Green Arrow, where the elderly black man steps up to Green Lantern and says, you've done considerable for the Blueskins, etc. And that we include in the documentary, but to have that art in your possession along with classic Superman art from the 40s, famous covers and some rare art. We have a wonderful panel with Luke Cage talking down Dr. Doom, which I love. There's some rare panels of Jack Kirby drawing Stan and Jack as the Fantastic Four. We have a section on parody comic books, so we have some not brand comics from the 60s. I think that's going to be a treasure trove because, again, you really can't get it in one volume. The companies don't want you to do that. So this is kind of one-stop shopping, I think, for the comic fan.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it here in the studio, and the rest of the staff here, they haven't been able to put it down since we got it. Now, going back to the documentary really quick, I know, like history itself, the landscape in comic book culture is going to be continuously changing, but to this point, do you guys think you captured everything that you needed to capture in the documentary?
Well, people ask, were there any folks you wanted to interview that for whatever reason you couldn't get to? And we like to say, well, Jack Kirby and Will Eisner, because unfortunately they passed away before we began this project. But I think we fought long and hard to make the series a 3-hour series. There were plenty of times where it looked like we couldn't raise the money, and we were just going to do a 2-hour special. And I think that extra hour really let us bring the story right up to date. And we look at how even our current president, Obama, grew up with comic books, and what it means for superheroes to become part of the mainstream. So I think the series is comprehensive, so to speak, but the book, as Larry just pointed out, appeals to both people who know this history inside out and someone who just can admire these 300 pages of incredible illustrations and stories.
Yeah.
And the one thing I wish we could, the book is definitely captures some of the stories I love. We couldn't get into the series. At one point, I wanted the book to be called Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, Cosmic Rays, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture. And they were like, Larry, that's too long. But again, your listeners will know why I wanted Cosmic Rays in the title.
Yeah. And again, closely tied to the question I just asked you is, and again, this is just hypothetical, you guys' opinions. Now that you've done the documentary, and Laurence, you knew about this already, we have things like San Diego Comic-Con, which every year just grows and grows, and it's getting bigger. You know, how many the box office returns from the movies like the Avengers and Iron Man and the Batman movies. Do you think there will ever come a time when the superhero genre in movies reaches an oversaturation, when people are like, okay, enough with the capes?
I think it's probably unavoidable, because that seems to be the trend in American culture. But another trend in American culture really is, with the exception of silent films, nothing goes away. I mean, television came along, they thought it would kill movies. Movies came along, they thought it would kill radio. And they all exist. They just exist in a different way. So maybe things will hunker down. They won't do as many reboots. Maybe they'll get into some of the stranger characters. Maybe someday there'll be a Doctor Strange movie, no pun intended. We really need a Black Panther movie. A Luke Cage movie seems to me a no-brainer. And maybe they'll just happen in slightly less promoted ways. So they're not going anywhere. I mean, my big thing is not to touch a sore point here, is your mother could throw out your comic book collection. There's no mother on earth who can walk into Barnes & Noble and throw away the whole graphic novel collection. They didn't have graphic novels. They weren't put in paperback, really, when I was growing up. So they are now, and they're expensive, and they're lovely editions. So they're here to stay, just like the movies.
Yeah, and you mentioned Luke Cage, but another one in there, you've got to get the perfect Wonder Woman movie. That's something that we've all been waiting for, too.
Absolutely.
No question.
Yeah, so again, the documentary airs tonight, October 15th, 8 p.m. on PBS, also available on Blu-ray and DVD. It's called Superheroes, A Never-Ending Battle. The companion book is Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture, available in bookstores and online. Or just go to our link section. It's all on there for you. Watch the trailer, watch everything. Watch, again, the documentary tonight, 8 p.m. Laurence Maslon, Michael Kantor, thank you guys for coming on. You are welcome back anytime, whether to talk about superheroes or anything else you guys have coming up.
We'll talk about superheroes around Christmas time, when people are thinking about what to buy.
Exactly. The DVDs are perfect
Thank
gifts.
you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Take
care.
So because Joel and Rachel aren't here, I decided to have two picks for me for the book club this week, and that was Superheroes, Capes, Cowls, and the Creation of Comic Book Culture. It's been out in bookstores for a couple of weeks now. You guys can get it on there, or go to our link section. There's a link to get not only the book, but also the DVD or Blu-ray for Superheroes, A Never-Ending Battle documentary. But my book, the second book, is from someone who has been a pick on the book club before. So welcome back on the show, Fred Wiehe. Fred, welcome back.
Thank you, Henry. Great to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back. So let's start with as you mentioned, Elric, Monster Hunter. When you were on last time, you said it was about to be released in paperback. Is it out in paperback now?
It is back. It is out in paperback now, and it is back out in all ebook formats as well.
Okay, and so I'm assuming it's in bookstores. You can get it on your website, of course.
Yes. Yeah, and you can find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and just about anywhere else.
All the usual suspects. Now, I don't suspect that you're done already, but you're still working on the sequel that you mentioned last time?
yeah, I'm still working on the sequel Zero Sin. I just finished up. I kind of put that one aside because I just finished up a young adult supernatural novel called Freak House that I was working on. I found it very hard to work on two projects at the same time, so I put one aside so I could finish the other, and I just got that finished.
Yeah, so I was actually going to ask you if there's any other projects, but you just kind of answered that. So you are known as a horror author, horror writer. Those two fall right in there. There's one that you mentioned last time you were on also that is very appropriate for now, the time that we're in. It's called Holiday Madness. So I got it. I read it. Thank you for that, by the way. So let's talk a little bit about Holiday Madness. Tell the story about how it came to be, because I found that pretty interesting. It's right in the front page. So go ahead and tell everybody how that came about.
That came about through a public radio station here in the Bay Area called KKUP. I had a friend there that, well, actually, I didn't even really know him. I met him through an acquaintance. My wife met him through an acquaintance, and then he asked me to come on the radio show. He had a radio show on KKUP. He asked me to do a talk marathon to raise money for their station, and I did that. And then he came up with the idea of me. He came up with the idea of me writing a Christmas story for his regular radio show that he did in the mornings on Wednesday each week, right around Christmas time. And I told him, I said, Jim, you know I'm a horror writer, right? You're asking me for a Christmas story. And he said, yeah, I know. And I said, you know you're not going to get anything warm and fuzzy, right? He goes, yeah, I understand that. No, I want a Christmas horror story. And I said, okay, that's what you want. That's what you're going to get. And it was such a big hit. We had a lot of call-ins, and people seemed to love it that we decided to do it every year. And then he came up with the idea of me doing a natural fit Halloween story each Halloween. So basically, he had me working for him for free. Over about a 7-year period where I was writing 2 stories a year for him to read on the air, I ended up with 13 stories, and I thought, well, heck, I've got these 13 stories, and a couple of them I had published in different venues, magazines and e-zines after I read them on the air, but I decided to put them all together into one book. And that's kind of how Holiday Madness was born. It's 13 stories. Some are Christmas, some are Halloween. There's maybe a couple in there that aren't either. That he had me do. He had me working a little bit extra. That he had me doing one in the summer, and there was one other one. But we ended up with 13 stories, and most of them are Halloween and Christmas stories.
Yeah, I found it interesting only because the way it started is something that I do here in radio. But maybe I misunderstood it. But I thought he had you read it live on air. I was going to say, well, you just came up with those. Yeah. You just came up with those off the top of your head, or you wrote them beforehand? Is what I think.
No,
you're saying.
I wrote them beforehand and read them on the air.
Okay. Yeah.
I could never do. Some of those are fairly. I mean, they're very detailed and intricate stories.
Yeah.
I'm a good storyteller. I can tell stories off the top of my head, but I'm not that good.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are pretty. They're pretty good. They're pretty detailed, and it is called Holiday Madness for a reason. Like you said, it does have Christmas. It is perfect for the holidays. It does have a little bit of Christmas, a little bit of Halloween, a little bit of there. I did see the ones that are not really any holiday. So I noticed one thing I was going to ask you as I was reading it. I noticed the name Charlie in a couple of the stories. Who's Charlie? Is that, or is that just coincidentally you just used the same name?
Is there a Charlie in a couple stories? I know there's a Charlie and a Petey in Trick or Treat the Puppet People. Was there a Charlie in another story?
Yeah, forget the title right now, but it's I think like 2 stories after the Petey and Charlie story.
Okay, that must be an accident. I know there's a recurring character besides Santa Claus. There's a recurring elf character, Gideon, who shows. Gideon, I believe, shows up in 2 or 3 stories. But Charlie, I guess that must be. I guess I must like the name Charlie. I didn't realize that I used Charlie in more than one story. I thought he was just in Trick or Treat as the Puppet People. It's not a recurring character, so it must be just another, just a name.
Yeah. No, I noticed that I figured it was, maybe he was an homage to a, relative or a friend or somebody, because a lot of people do that, put him in the stories, but no, you just...
Those stories, a lot of those stories were written like a year apart. Like I said, I collected those stories over 7 years or more, where, I wasn't even, when I was writing the new story, the old stories weren't even in my head. There's only 2 stories that are really connected to one another. The rest of them are standalone stories. And even though these stories are connected, they can be standalone stories anyway. But A Gremlin for Christmas and Gremlins for Christmas, a sequel, they are connected. There's a history in the sequel that's connected to the original story.
Yeah, has anybody approached you about televising these or animating them? Because the Uglies, for example, when I was reading that one, I could clearly see that as an episode of a like NBC's Grimm or one of those out there. Because that one's really good, I got to say.
Well, it's funny that you picked that one out, because that's one that I decided to base a screenplay on, and I've actually completed the screenplay, and I'm shopping it around right now.
Okay.
So it's interesting that you chose that one. That's pretty good. I thought that was a good one, a very visual, very creature feature kind of story that would play well, on a TV show or as a feature film.
Yeah.
I have a script that's based on that story.
Yeah, because that one, the other ones are good, but that one really, like you said, it is visual. It really, I can literally picture the action, because it's got a little bit of everything. Starts off with, well, I won't give away too much, but there's a death in a family, and then that's what triggers the whole point of the story, and I'll stop there, because then I'm going to give away the whole thing. But it is pretty visual, and I can see that as like you said, as a movie or as a TV episode.
Yeah. Basically, we can give away a little bit of it. It's about a family of witches in a small town that pass on it's not a tradition, but what would be the word?
Curse, maybe?
They protect the town. They use a curse against evil to protect the town, to protect them from the Uglies. But the town basically has forgotten through the decades that they are protecting them, and basically the family of witches are not treated very well by the town. Mm-hmm. And it's passed on, and the young lady, the main character, Ellie, the young lady doesn't want to have it passed to her. Her mother had died, and her grandmother needs to pass it to her, but she goes away to college, and so it's never passed to her to give her the power. And then she comes back from college, and when her grandmother dies, then that's when she has to come to terms with her witch ancestry. She's the only thing that can save everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you were saying that, I was thinking about the Charlie and Petey story, Trick or Treat, and that one actually reminds me a lot of a Twilight Zone kind of ending. I won't give the ending away. I mean, you can if you want, but that was very Twilight Zone-y, I guess is the word to put it.
Yeah. I won't give the ending away, but I will say this about Trick or Treat: it's the Puppet People. I'm Petey, and my older brother is Charlie.
Mm.
And basically, that's based on something from my childhood. At least that the bedroom that we live in, the story of the Puppet People my uncle told us, and my brother used to scare me with it, and we actually had what I described, the wood grain in the walls, and the cowboy and the dog, and we had that hanging on our wall and everything. And at night I would stare at those things, and they would come to life. They would, if you stare at something long enough in the dark, they do sit, and as your eyes adjust, they do seem like they're moving, and that kind of stimulated this story, Trick or Treat, It's the Puppet People. Of course, I've taken it a lot further into the realm of supernatural and surreal, and not just staring at things. But that kind of came from my childhood, and my brother read that, and he wanted me to sign. He bought a copy of the book, and he wanted me to sign it, Petey. So he recognized it as soon as he read it. He said, "Oh yeah, I recognize this one." So that story is kind of near and dear to my heart. And a lot of my stories come from different things in my life through the years that kind of were inspired by things that either happened to me or were said or things I've heard, or just like Trick or Treat, It's the Puppet People.
His name is Fred Wiehe. He's a horror author. You can tell. That's a little bit of taste of some of the stories you'll find in Holiday Madness. FredWiehe.com. It's up on our guesting section. You guys can go on there and get the books and find out more about Fred. Now, let's talk about you a little bit. Kind of obvious. I mean, the for a horror writer, your favorite holiday would be Halloween. You're not going to say it's 4th of July or Easter or something like that.
No, it is Halloween. I have to admit, it is Halloween. I know it's a little cliche for a horror writer to have Halloween as his favorite holiday, but at my house we always do a big thing outside in our driveway. We kind of set up a mad scientist laboratory where I bought this Frankenstein monster mask, this rubber mask. It was actually used in the Broadway play. It was one of 2 masks that they used in the play, and it was actually fitted for a woman because a woman played the Frankenstein monster, so it's kind of small. But I made my own monster. Like we used to do this when we were kids. We would make a monster and carry it around out of old clothes and stuffing and boots and stuff. And I made this monster with a head and put the mask on it and got these eyeballs and stuck it in there so it looks like it's, alive. And I put it on a big laboratory kind of surgical table and drape it up to the head. And, and I have chemicals brewing and these things with lightning flashes and all this stuff. We actually built walls out of wood to make walls around in the driveway around like it's a room, and put these wallpaper on it that looked like stone. And we have windows in them, and in one window a wolf man is trying to get through, and there's ghosts around and stuff. And so it's like this big mad scientist laboratory, and of course I'm the mad scientist. I've got a lab coat that's got blood stains all over it and stuff, and we scare a lot of kids. My son, we even make a look as you're approaching out by the driveway before you come all the way down the driveway to the garage where the laboratory's set up. There's a graveyard that you have to come through, and my son plays a grave robber, and he's got this big wagon full of arms and legs and heads and stuff. So sometimes the little kids don't want to come all the way up.
Yeah, I can't imagine why.
So we go out to them and scare them out on the street, but so they don't get away from us. But so yeah, it's a big deal. And my house is Halloween all year long. My wife, God bless her, she lets me bring in all sorts of stuff. I have monster models and action figures and posters and all sorts of things, all over the living room on shelves and stuff. It's like Halloween 24/7 in my living room.
Yeah. See now that's how you celebrate Halloween. But let me ask you this question, and this is your opinion only. Do you think Halloween, the way we celebrate Halloween, do you think it's getting too commercial, or do you think it still retains, its tradition, like bobbing for apples and things like that?
I think it's gotten too commercial.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to see Halloween stuff out in August.
Yeah.
Just like I don't like to see Christmas stuff. There's Christmas stuff out now. And
yeah, I've been seeing stuff since September, the Christmas stuff.
Yeah. I really do think it's too commercialized. What I like to do for Halloween is go around and visit as many special haunted places that I can. We have like the Pirates of Emerson in Fremont, and there's a haunted house in the Santa Clara Fairgrounds. I kind of do that. I like to go do that kind of stuff, and I stay away from the more commercialism of it. And of course, I like to do the big laboratory and that the night of. But most holidays are all about spending money and things like that. And I think kids, I think sometimes kids and parents both forget that.
Yeah. I mean, here I tell you, here and with my family, we're kind of like you guys, and we do a lot of do-it-yourselves. We as much as we can, we like to make our own costumes, our own decorations if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we keep it fun like that. Now this one also is just.
You won't find me in a spirit store. You have spirit where you are.
Yeah, we got.
I think they're nationwide.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of be like Starbucks. There's one on every corner over here, just about.
Yeah. I don't go there. I get my stuff. I try to find, and there's still some around, at least around here, some mom and pop costume places.
Yeah.
Small independent places, or make it myself.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, again, this is just your opinion too. But how do you think we'll celebrate Halloween, let's say 10 years from now? Do you think we'll go back more to the traditional way, or it'll be even more commercial than it is now?
What I would like to say is that it will go back, but I don't think it will. I don't think it ever will go back. I think everything just gets more commercialized and more commercialized. I don't know. It's really all about the dollars.
Yeah.
And I don't see that changing. And I believe that with Christmas too. We, as a family at Christmas time, we try not to buy a lot of presents. We don't, we maybe give one present here or one present there. But we try not, I don't like the shopping and the running around, and I try to stay away from that. But, I don't see that ending, unfortunately. I think it's only going to get worse.
Yeah,
it really takes everybody to go, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
as long as everybody's going out and spending their money, it's never going to change.
Exactly. No, I was going to say also us, the media, we're part of that too. I mean, especially shows like The Walking Dead on AMC and the comic books and all that. Right now, because of The Walking Dead, the TV show and the comic book, zombies are the it monster now. So, what do you think will be the next it monster? Is it again more traditional like Dracula, vampires, werewolves? I mean, werewolves, they tried to do it with Twilight, but I don't think people liked all the. I mean, with the vampires, they don't like all the sparkling and all that stuff that came with it.
Yeah, well, zombies are one of those things that never really go out of style. They go in, they're in style, they're out a little bit, they come back. Vampires are kind of the same way. Vampires will never totally go away, and I don't think zombies will either. Werewolves are a little harder sell. I mean, people, we've had some good werewolf movies. I love American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
And movies like that, but the next big monster, I don't know. I'd like to. I'd like to think it might be the Uglies. You know, I like those monsters. You know, the classic monsters though will always be around, but hopefully we'll come up with some new ones.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen enough vampire movies to last me a little while.
Yeah.
And zombies I like, but yeah, I think the market is over flooding with them right now. I mean, I love The Walking Dead, but it's like I can only take so many zombies before I want something new. So I'm always looking for a new monster, always trying to create a new monster. I was trying to come up with something somewhat original I hope the Uglies are somewhat original. And some other basic monsters. But I have to admit, I mean, I did pay homage to all the classic monsters in Alaric Monster Hunter. There's zombies and vampires, and I think there's even a werewolf, and there's a mad scientist and a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde character. I'm kind of going more with Freak House, the supernatural young adult novel. I'm kind of going more towards the paranormal, ghosts, and it's about a team of ghost hunters, and a young lady whose psychic ability. I'm back to Halloween now. She works in a Halloween attraction called Freak House that used to be an insane asylum, and it's her psychic ability that brings Freak House to life. And so the monster is actually the Halloween attraction itself, and the dormant psychic energy that's there. So that's kind of where I've been heading, and going more towards the paranormal, and less away from the creatures. But I like all kinds of monsters and all kinds of supernatural things.
Yeah, and you guys, you can all hear that and read it, actually, not hear it. Read it in Fred's books. You can go to fredwiehe.com. It's up on our guest link, so you can go there. You can find out all about Fred. Get all the books besides Holiday Madness. That one's perfect for right now, getting ready for Halloween. But Alaric Monster Hunter, I picked that one not too long ago. That one's really good. The sequel coming, we'll say, soon-ish.
Soon.
Yeah.
Probably Freak House first, but soon, hopefully. And Freak House, I think the good thing about Freak House is that it's written as a young adult novel, but I definitely believe that adults will love this book as well. It does not. I do not pull back on the scare and the gore necessarily just because it's a young adult novel, or story as well. And there's no Twilight-y stuff going on. There's no sparkling vampires and all that teenage love angst. There's none of that either. So it's geared towards young adults, but also towards adults as well, adult themes as well.
So the kind of stories that we like, in other words. Again, his name is Fred Wiehe, horror author. You're welcome back anytime, Fred. We love, you're like us. We celebrate Halloween every year here on the show, and also with my family, and our producer Angel. She loves all this stuff too. So everybody else, not so much. But oh well, it's our show. We can do that.
Well, they're lost. The great thing about Holiday Madness is you can enjoy it at Halloween and Christmas.
Yeah, and actually, I was going to say that's the kind. As I was reading, that's also the kind of book, not just for the holidays, but say on a camping trip. They're perfect to read. On a campfire, and especially if you read it just right, you give it the that jump moment. It'll work perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I love being on your show, Henry. I'd love to come back anytime you want me back.
Yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
Give me a holler.
Okay, Fred. No, I was going to say have a happy Halloween. Sounds like you are, but I'll say it anyway. Do have a happy Halloween.
You too, Henry, and happy Halloween to all your listeners out there as well.
Thanks, Fred. We'll talk to you later. So there's the show, a little bit of everything for everybody this week. Some comic books, some TV talk, some Halloween stuff, of course. It's October. How can we not? Don't forget a couple of things for those of you who still don't have any plans for Halloween. Well, we can make them for you. First, San Francisco's Haunted House of Horrors, starting October 26th to the 31st at the U.S. Mint in downtown San Francisco. Use the discount code GEEKSPEAK for $20 off any ticket. $20 off any ticket. Get them now because they will sell out. Go to SF's Haunted House of Horrors. Click on the little logo on the website there. Put in the discount code GEEKSPEAK. You know how to spell it, right? It's right, the logo right up on top. GeekSpeak, $20 off any ticket for San Francisco's Haunted House of Horrors. Going on now also through the 31st over in San Jose, the Winchester Mystery House, $3 off Grand Estate, the behind the scenes of the flashlight tours. Again, let me remind you, you better get those flashlight tickets early because they will sell out, especially on Halloween week. But if you go to our special Geek Speak listener page on the Winchester Mystery House, you get $3 off now through October 31st. So there, a couple of things that you can do if you're still not knowing what you're going to do for Halloween. And since I'm in that kind of mood, then I will help you out even more next week. We're going to talk to somebody from the Winchester Mystery House, probably Lindsay Huffman, who's in charge of their marketing department. Won't spoil anything, but we'll talk about how they're celebrating Halloween this year. It's a little bit different from the past 2 years. We'll also talk to some other haunted attractions going on in October, and we'll keep it a little family friendly towards the end. Also, just we're not going to forget about the wee ones. So there is something out there for even the smallest ones, and maybe Joel, and Rachel, because that's the reason why they're not here. I'm not going to let them miss out on next week's show. They have to be here. I mean, come on, it's a whole month. How can you not love Halloween? So that'll be next week. So as we say every week, come on back next week. We will speak more geek and more Halloween too. Bye.
Henry and the gang will return next week with an all-new episode. The Geek Speak Show is powered by GeekTyrant.com, Mightyville.com, RamasScreen.com, Zergnet.com, and Collider.com. Make sure you're subscribed on iTunes, follow them on Twitter at Geek Speak Show 1, become a fan on Facebook, and watch event coverage on YouTube/Geek Speak videos. See you next week. Cheerio.
The Geek Speak Show.